On this week's episode of Back of the Grid, we are going to talk about the Las Vegas Grand Prix. We're going to make our predictions, and of course, we're going to go through the inbox. Let's go. Hello and welcome to another edition of Back of the Grid. I'm your host, Stu, and I'm joined as always by Tom.
Hello.
And by Chris.
Hello.
Humongous delay there for Tom, but
yeah, that was a worryingly long delay before Tom replied.
Post, I guess.
Welcome to Storm Debbie.
Oh, is that what this is? Is the storm? The storm is interfering with.
I assume so.
Signal.
We'll
just
we will
through
make that
as
excuse.
BBC. Yeah, as though it's some sort of shoddy BBC News interview. We'll just crack on. We are here to talk about the Las Vegas Grand Prix this week. We're going to preview it for you. We are going to go over all of our predictions and all of the usual stuff that we do on Back of the Grid podcast. First of all, Chris has written this one, so Chris is going to take us through some of the bits and bobs that we're going to talk about. Chris, I'll hand over to you.
This is one of the most, we have a lot of race previews where there's not much to talk about the actual race beforehand, whereas this time there very much is. I don't want to be too doomsayer about it, because if you remember the very first Baku Grand Prix, before everyone was like, this is going to be chaos, there's going to be safety cars every 3 laps, and it ended up being a really boring race where nothing happened. So that still could happen. However, the ingredients are there for this to be a weird, messy weekend.
Yeah, so there's some really cold track temperatures you've got as your first point here.
Initially, people were predicting the track temperature could be as low as 4 degrees C, which is 40 Fahrenheit-ish. More sort of up-to-date forecasts have got the ambient temperatures at 8 to 10 degrees, so the track surface will probably be a bit higher than 4, but not much.
That's still cold. That's still not in the window of these tyres.
Yeah, I mean, that's still colder than winter testing ever is. Yeah. I think there's maybe been a winter testing with 8 or 10 degree track temperatures in the past, but yeah, these tyres have never had to operate at those temperatures in a Grand Prix. This is very much looking like it's going to be the coldest Grand Prix on record, which is just going to be a nightmare for tyre temperatures. Especially at a street track where we're thinking there's potential of safety cars, red flag restarts. I've seen some people in the know suggesting that if things are that cold, it might be advantageous under a safety car, no matter what strategy you're on, go in and get some new tyres on, because your tyres will instantly be 20, 30, 40 degrees hotter than anyone that's been driving around behind the safety car, which is kind of wild.
That's hectic. I would like to see that. I've got time for that. Well, I mean, it just means people will be piling into the pits at the hint of a safety car.
Yeah.
If that's true, as your tires are going off and there's less material on them, the degradation is going to be crazy. But also, as there's less material on the tire, it gets less and less hot and holds its temperature less and less. So these tyres could just suddenly, we're talking about tyres a lot, but these tyres could just go off a window, and the undercut is going to be absolutely massive, because the advantage of having those nice warm tyres straight out of the box, straight out of the tyre blankets, is going to be massive, right? Surely.
One team who loves this scenario?
Who's that?
Ferrari.
Yeah.
Bring everyone down to their level with tyre tech.
Yeah, I don't know that. I do wonder if, I think that car probably just, even in cold temperatures, still chew through its tyres. I think
probably.
It also means that the Red Bull just won't use its tyres at all. They'll have a great car the whole time. They won't have thermal degradation at all. So they'll just use their amazing car, generate loads and loads of downforce, and have a huge advantage, right? That'd be my theory. Maybe I'm completely wrong there, but if anyone in the chat thinks different, do say now.
Mate, potentially not. We'll get on to get into teams in a little bit. Well, let's do a little more on the track itself first, I guess. Because it's we've had cold races before, we've had high deg before. This kind of feels like a perfect storm, because the track is mostly straight, and in between are low speed corners. They're all going to be on a low downforce setup, all of which leads to warming up your tyres being extremely difficult, if not impossible. Like, for reference, I've seen that in Baku, there has been recorded at Baku in the past, tyres losing 30 degrees of surface temperature just in the final sector where it's mostly a straight. And that's a track that has at least a few high-speed corners to get some temperature back in. Like, this Vegas circuit, most of the corners are like second, third gear ones. I've also seen a guy on YouTube who used to be a Red Bull performance engineer has said it might even get into the territory where engines are struggling to reach the minimum manifold temperatures they need. So drivability of the engines might also become an issue.
Whoa. Oh goodness, this could be a bit bad then. If you've got engines going pop everywhere because they can't get hot enough. So like, yeah, if the engines are not running at the right temperature, then none of the components will have expanded or contracted to be at the relative to each other to run at their most efficient and to fit inside of the perfectly engineered holes that they have to fit into inside of that engine block. So.
Because famously, an F1 engine that is completely cold is seized because the tolerances are so small.
So the level of friction then can suddenly become really high, and then you get spikes of heat in places where you really don't want them, and that leads to cracks in things like engine blocks and or rods or pistons or valves. All that sort of stuff doesn't like not being in the right size hole. So that could be, you could get a few engine failures, couldn't you, as you get into the race if they're just not warm enough. But then as well, at the same time, they do have control over, how much heat is dissipated from the car. They do have louvers on the car and stuff to let heat out. So I imagine most teams you'll see a lot of cars with all those louvers completely closed up and just completely sealed bodywork, which will make the cars super, super aerodynamic and make them, really, really much more slippery in the air because they won't have all this dirty air coming out of holes, hot, dirty air coming out of holes, causing aerodynamic drag, which is what you get when you open up the car and you're letting air through holes. You're getting smooth air going across the surface of the entire car. So it'll be interesting to see which teams. I think this could really shake up the grid. Actually, all these factors could really, really have an impact on who's quick, who isn't, and who is able to make the most out of their package.
There's a big multitude of unknowns here, isn't there? Like, we go to some circuits and you've got one, maybe two. This is like everything's an unknown. There's practically very little that is known in the grand scheme of things.
We're definitely looking at the hardest predictions of the season for sure today.
Yeah.
Couple of extra little curveballs in there as well. Obviously, it's a newly laid track surface that the teams and Pirelli know next to nothing about. Apparently, the teams have been giving Pirelli some of their simulation data to help Pirelli kind of know what to expect and prep for this. We've also obviously got no support series running. It's only F1. So we're going to have brand new surface with nothing laying rubber on it.
Who'd have thunk it?
I know. And then just for good measure right at the end, potential rain on Friday night, going into Saturday morning, which is when practice 3 and qualifying are going to be. So,
and am I right in thinking the race itself for us UK viewers is at 6 a.m? Is that
6
right?
a.m. Sunday morning, which is late night Saturday local time.
8 a.m. I believe.
I think it's a 10 p.m. race start. Is it on Sunday local time?
Oh, sorry. 8 a.m. is qualifying. Sorry, my apologies.
Yes, 8 a.m. qualifying. 6 a.m. race.
6 a.m. race.
Yeah. It's all lining up for what could be an interesting and chaotic weekend in equal measure, I guess. In terms of what teams are going to struggle and what teams aren't, while I see what you're saying about Red Bull, this is probably also characteristically a Singapore-esque track, which was obviously Red Bull's one Achilles heel this season.
Except Singapore has a lot more braking zones and a lot more 90-degree turn, a lot more sharp stops and a lot more opportunities.
A lot more temperature as well.
Tire temperature, yeah.
It does. So maybe the Red Bull disadvantage won't be as pronounced because obviously,
I think
although Red Bull won Monaco and Baku, they were probably their other two weakest circuits this season.
I think the bumpiness could be a factor for Red Bull. I think a lot of teams will be raising their ride heights because we saw Mercedes last race raise their ride height that little bit too high, and it just took their peaky car out of its window, and they weren't able to make the most of the updates that they brought that served them so well, albeit invalidly in the USA. So Mercedes will be nervous coming into this race about their ride height. Red Bull will obviously, of course, be nervous about it being a bumpy track, being a street circuit. Of course, they're going to be doing a lot of studying, figuring out the key thing is just getting your ride height absolutely spot on. I think at this circuit, like it is at any circuit, but it becomes so much more of a factor when there's a lot of bumps involved, just because they're all hyper aware now. We're all hyper aware now of how easy it is to cross this threshold of getting the plank wear wrong and being disqualified. We've seen it happen. We know it's a thing now. People are going to be much, much more careful of it. And again, that is another one of those things that could potentially shake up the order somewhat across the race weekend. We will see the teams that get that right do really, really well. And on the other side of it, we'll see the teams that get it wrong either be disqualified for being fast and disqualified, or we'll see them being slow and nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, I do worry for Mercedes this weekend, like ride height things aside. They've not been the fastest in a straight line all season, and this track is going to be very top end dependent. And also tyre warm up has not been Mercedes' strong point, and that's going to be vital at this track. So I think a rough weekend in store for Mercedes, unfortunately. Probably good for Williams and Haas have both had really good top ends this season. So maybe we'll see both of them a bit higher than we'd normally expect.
Yeah, I think Williams is a good shout in that regard. Like we've seen them run quite well in high speed stuff this back end of the season since the upgrade started coming. So I think that's a good one to look out for here. The nature of this track.
I did see as well, Haas, interestingly, are kind of throwing it's the end of the season, nothing left to lose, let's throw things at the wall approach. And they're actually putting Hülkenberg's car back to the pre-update spec as a kind of comparison, which is something we've seen Haas do in the past, isn't it? But
yeah.
I know they did it with was it Grosjean and Magnussen, who immediately crashed into each other at Silverstone when they last tried to do that.
Yeah.
So hopefully they'll avoid each other this time. Interesting approach. Ferrari are a weird one because, as we said, Ferrari generally just chomps its tyres, but they are also good at getting their tyres up to temperature. So I'm not sure where I land on Ferrari. Like, are they going to get their tyres to temperature, be fast, and then immediately fall off a cliff? Or will the colder temperatures help them manage that more? I'm not sure.
Yeah. It's such an unknown, isn't it? It's a really, 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 really tricky one to predict. My feeling with Ferrari is, I think when there's an unusual tyre situation, the teams that tend to do best are the teams that understand their cars the most, which is why I think Red Bull will still be in the place where they'll be quids in for a good result.
Yeah.
I think they know what window they need their car to be in and how it responds to ride height changes and how it responds to different tyre situations. I think better than most other teams. They've got the most stable platform of anyone. They're not experimenting, messing around with their formula, trying to reinvent the wheel. They've got what they've got. They understand it, and they're the best at getting a tyre in a window, which is why we see them, with such great tyre wear every race, and they're so good in qualifying, so good across the board. With Ferrari, there is the potential that yes, it could benefit them, this temperature situation, but also there's myriad factors, right, in tyre wear, that it's not just about the temperature, it's about the surface, it's about downforce levels, it's about ride heights, all that kind of stuff. It's about how a car turns in, how a car holds on through a corner, and for me, Ferrari just don't have a good enough handle on all of that stuff together in unison for me to really say yes or no they will have an advantage here. I think it's the flip of a coin for me. Like, I really don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I also feel like there's potential for this to end up being like a 3-stop race, which sadly for Ferrari just gives them more opportunities to get strategy wrong or mess up pit stops.
Yeah, but I don't mind a 3-stop race. I'd be very happy with.
I think that'd be great. What do you think about Aston Martin? Because like early season, slow speed corners were sort of their bread and butter. Like they could and should have won at Monaco. And obviously they had the massive downturn. Then they turn up in Brazil and are suddenly really fast. And Brazil is the polar opposite of that kind of track. So I'm really interested to see what this Aston Martin does here now they sort of seem to have found the window again.
I mean, characteristically, it should suit them, shouldn't it? The sort of the half of the lap that's not a flat out straight, that bit should suit them. But I think anything like a McLaren or a Red Bull's probably going to peg them back again down that straight. Like, the advantage is going to be too great, I think. But I mean,
the aerodynamic advantage those two teams
like
potentially.
I mean, it's not a very long straight to the line, is it, in Brazil? And look how close Perez got. Like, down that straight in Vegas, he's having both Red Bulls and the McLarens coming past him in that scenario. So I think it'll make it an interesting race because in theory, you'll have half the circuit that the Aston's good in, half the circuit that the Red Bull will be just dominant in, and then the McLaren probably being like the best all-rounder and not better than either of them in their respective best bits, but being like the best all-round, if you see what I mean. So I think there's an interesting 3-team fight there for up front is my feeling. I think that's your 3-way fight around podium places, is between probably Alonso, both the McLarens if Piastri's in his good form, and then again probably both the Red Bulls if Perez is the Perez that showed up to Brazil, I would say.
Who do you let's do a couple of like emergency questions here. Do you think it will be good?
I'm reserving judgment there. Like, I don't think it's going to be as catastrophic as a lot of people do mongering it have been saying. But I'm also not going into it expecting this massive spectacle that FOM and everybody to do with the publicity is trying to put on it. I'm just going, middle of the road. It'll probably be a fine race and like sort of hopefully at least prove why it can have the potential of being a consistent event on the calendar. I mean, he's got a 10-year deal or whatever it is, so he's going to be a consistent race on the calendar, but like sort of prove that it's worth having it. A little bit like, I guess, how, you know, even though the first Baku wasn't great, most of them since have been pretty entertaining races, and you don't question why Baku's on the calendar anymore when it comes to being a street circuit. And I think that we're probably going to end up in that scenario with Vegas. Like, this one might be a bit up in the air while they get their head around temperatures, new surfaces, new track, all that kind of stuff. Their
feet.
Yeah, and then sort of going forward seasons after that, providing they understand the feedback from this event and deal with it correctly, then the future ones should be okay. Like, I mean, we moved when Baku was, for example, for reasons to do with like temperatures and stuff like that and issues. So maybe it needs to be a different time of day. I mean, I know they want it under the lights, but realistically, if that's going to lead to worse racing, why would you do that? Like, or a different time of year where it's not as cold at night. Like, as long as they learn from it, even if it's not the most brilliant spectacle in the world in terms of the race, I mean, I'm sure it'll look amazing, But the race, if it's not up to par and they do things about it, I've got less of a problem. So very, very much down the middle. I mean, I'm confident it'll look awesome. Got no doubts
I think
there.
as a visual, the shots will look rad. It's provided we don't get too much tree cam. I think it'll look absolutely.
No, we're going to get casino cam, aren't we?
You'll not get any tree cam because they took all the trees out to build the circuit.
Yeah, that's true.
Literally, they have. So
that's a shame.
I'm of a similar thought. I think after all this doom mongering, I think we are going to get maybe a bit of a Baku thing where the race ends up being a bit of a damp squib. I do have a feeling the first session on Friday is going to look a bit like, was it 2020 or 2021 when they went back to Istanbul and the track hadn't been used in years and there was slip sliding all over the place. I can see them maybe looking a little bit silly on that first Friday.
This time with walls.
Yeah, exactly. What's the worst that could happen? Send out the rental cars again.
It really depends on who's resurfaced those roads and what brief they've been given, to be brutally honest with you. Because if they've resurfaced it to just generic US road standard, they might as well have not bothered. They need to have been putting something down that's good for racing as well as just gentle street use, like some sort of hybrid.
From what I have read, it's kind of an in-between sort of surface they've gone for. It's not a standard American road surface, and it's not a full-on racetrack surface. It's kind of somewhere in the middle.
And that's fine, because that I think is the... I'm not expecting them to lay down the same asphalt that you'd get at a professional, full-grade, full-time permanent circuit.
I don't think it'd be durable enough anyway.
Exactly, it's not practical for everyday use. But if it's something that can kind of work with both jobs, that's okay. As long as it's just not putting generic asphalt down that they'd put down when they fill the potholes, that's fine.
I mean, they're going to be the best roads in Vegas by a country mile after they've gone. There's that at least.
Yeah. So what do I think? I think you're both right. I think it's hard to tell whether it'll be good or not, I suppose. It was a bit of an unfair question to ask. But I think visually it will look absolutely epic. I think the fact that it's under the lights, the fact that you've got the cars going around and the bright neon sort of circus of Las Vegas all around it, I think it's going to look absolutely sick, provided we get some decent shots of it and they set the cameras up well. I hope there aren't too many teething troubles for a foreman for the team, because the last few years they've not been great at we've seen all season the odd little silly broadcast issue and stuff like that. Things that I think just shouldn't be happening at this level of world sport global sports broadcasting should not have some of the errors in it that I think that Formula One does. And I think it's full of potential for there to be absolutely loads of them. Just the difficulties in setting up a whole new circuit they've never been to before in a city. It's a very, very complex operation, admittedly, but they do it enough. They do, if they can do it in Monaco, there's a lot less space in Monaco than there is in Vegas. Should be all right, but
and at the very least, I've got a bespoke pit building and pit lane for this race, which you can't say for most street circuits. So that helps.
Here's an interesting one for you. Just while we're on the topic of things to kind of look out for and thoughts about it. What are your thoughts on the pit exit? I think it's going to cause trouble.
It's a little sketchy looking.
I saw what I thought was an accurate description, which was this is very South Korea-esque. It was Seoul, wasn't it? The circuit.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite that bad. So I've driven a few laps of the circuit on the F1 game to get a feel for it. The normal racing line around turn one doesn't really intersect with the pit exit.
Nah, yeah, I think you're fine.
But I think as soon as, if turn one ends up being an overtaking point, I think as soon as you start getting people going side by side through turn one, then there is potential that someone's going to drift across into the pit exit as they're going side by side. The people leaving the pits are going to have to be very on top of anyone coming around, I think.
Yeah. You'd expect if anyone sensible set up things like the light board points and stuff, you would have thought they've stuck something on the inside of that corner so that anyone coming out of the pit can get a very clear blue flag flash.
There normally is
someone. So I would expect there to be at least something like that.
In Monaco, down the start-finish straight, they have the arrows pointing down. So you can get out of the way. There's someone coming out of the pit. So they might
so something similar to that.
Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think it'd be too much of an issue, to be honest. I think that by the time you've gotten around that, your apex is sort of quite early on in that corner, so you're probably running well wide. And
I feel like generally, you're going wide in that corner, but it really depends on if they're capable of holding a battle through it, like Chris says. I think that the combination of two cars having a battle through the exit of turn one, and then somebody like entering that from the pits, like you're just going to get like a wild Magnussen has appeared kind of scenario, and he's just going to throw himself into this battle.
And it's confusion.
I'm
going to have to have a go on it on Chris's Formula One when I next see it, when I'm next over at yours, Chris.
Yeah, definitely. In VR as well now, I have that capability, which is very exciting.
Oh wow, VR F1. Oh wow.
So you can experience the pit exit first person. I do think as well, I talk about this as an event. I think just the presentation of it all is going to be mad. I think if you thought Miami was bad, this is going to be on another level. Like,
that does concern me.
It's good. I think it's going to be very. How do you do, fellow kids? In its desperately trying to be cool.
Yeah, I mean, we're slowly becoming the old school, like F1 is about cars racing. I just want cars racing. Stop with all the other stuff. We're slowly becoming that.
I've literally been that way for like 3 seasons, dude. That is me through and through. I'm here I switch off. Like once the races have finished, I barely even watch the podium half the time. I'm just like, right, race is over. I'm going to go and do something else.
Yeah.
So we're talking about opening ceremonies.
Yeah, they're having a big opening ceremony on the Wednesday before the race, with 9 or 10 different musical performances. I mention this only because in like the description for it, it said all 20 drivers will be in attendance, which if that doesn't say they'll be there because they are told to be there, I don't know what does. I think they'll be in attendance for the smallest amount of time they can get away with being.
All 20 drivers will be made to attend.
Do you want to know who's performing on Wednesday?
Yes, please.
Why not? We're here now.
Let's play how many of them have you even heard of?
This is where we show how old we really are.
We've got Andrea Day.
No.
Not
one for
Bishop
me.
Briggs.
I know that one.
Jay Balvin.
Nope.
John Legend. Heard of him?
Yeah, heard of.
Journey. Definitely heard of them.
I might have heard of that one.
And Stu's back on board. Keith Urban, which is a name I'm aware of.
Don't know that
one. Steve Aoki, who I only know from watching what's his name? David Chang on his food show on Netflix. Tiesto, Blast from the Past.
We know Tiesto.
Know of.
30 Seconds to Mars, because of course.
Vegas, right?
Will.i.am.
I know that guy.
William.
And then because it's Vegas, bit of Blue Man Group, bit of Cirque du Soleil.
Wow.
Yeah. It's going to be bizarre. It's going to be
2
such
hours,
a bizarre
man.
weekend.
I mean, that's why the ticket's so expensive.
Yeah.
Imagine going to say each one of those individually, it costs you a lot more than a Formula 1
Well, that's true, yeah. Although if there's 9 or 10 of them, you're going to get about like 6 minutes each, I imagine.
Yeah, it must be quite short.
More performances than Glastonbury. Wow. Well,
should we talk about a few more actual on-track things?
Yeah, we really should.
Yeah,
we've got some storylines to get through. So maybe
I think we should do like storyliney things. Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. There's I guess there's still a few championship permutations available. So they're an interesting thing to keep an eye on at least.
Let's do that.
The P2 in the drivers is all but over now. I think it's a 32 point gap between Hamilton and Perez. I feel like I can potentially see Perez maybe even not increasing his points total in the last 2 races. I also, after Brazil, think Hamilton finding 32 points might be a struggle, regardless of what Perez does.
Yeah.
I think that's as good as over, unfortunately.
Yeah.
More interestingly, 4th, 5th, and 6th, which is Alonso, Norris, and Sainz, is only 6 points between all 3 of them. So that's quite spicy.
That is a really spicy battle. Three lead drivers in 3 different teams.
Yeah.
Can you call Sainz a lead driver? I think you can.
I mean, he is the top place
championship
Ferrari driver in. Yeah.
Okay. Let's
Ferrari still only 20 points behind Mercedes for second. That's there for the taking, I think.
It's going to be close. It'll be difficult, but it's possible. Yeah.
I think Ferrari generally are looking better than Mercedes at the moment.
Right now, yeah.
10 points a race for the last 2 races.
One of those where the remaining 2 races, either of those 2 teams can get it right or wrong is the thing. Like,
yeah.
It could go either way.
Both.
After McLaren overtook Aston Martin, Aston actually closed that gap a little bit in Brazil. In the fight for 4th, that's 21 points between them now. My money would still be on McLaren for that, but again, going into an unknown like this, you never know.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then the final bit here.
Final one, which I still think is the most interesting battle left, which is the last 4 places in the Constructors.
You
Williams
need to start directing the races. You need to start. We spend more time looking at Logan
battle
Sargent
we never see.
when we should be looking at like a race for the lead, and instead we're watching Logan Sargent battle for 13.
No, I love it. I love that bottom place battle. So Williams, AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo, and Haas is the order at the moment: 28, 21, 16, and 12 points respectively. So yeah, that's a really interesting one to keep an eye on.
Yeah,
interesting.
I think the most
Well,
interesting bit of that, I think specifically, is probably Williams versus AlphaTauri, because Williams sort of started to look good, but these last couple of races, AlphaTauri have really pulled it out. Like both Tsunoda and Ricciardo getting big points. So I think out of all of that, like that's obviously, I mean, it makes sense because they've got the most points out of the 4 of them. But I think that's a really interesting battle that if AlphaTauri carry on the way they have for the last couple of races, will probably pip Williams too, which I mean, Williams won't be pleased about that. But
I did see a headline today of James Vell's basically saying he doesn't care that much, and he'd happily sacrifice that 7th place if it meant they had a better start for next season because they're working on next year's car bids. So for all of the talk of, another team would ruin us financially, clearly they don't care that much because there's a lot of money between 7th place and 8th place, which he doesn't seem particularly bothered about.
Or is that just the what's the word? The like the preconceived
lining up the chickens, lining up the excuses.
Yeah, like he's making the excuse before they lose.
Laying the groundwork for the inevitable, Tom.
Yeah. Thanks for helping me find a turn of phrase that fit what I was trying to convey. I'm glad someone in this world understands what I'm thinking, Stu, when I try and spew brain thoughts into word speak.
Yeah, we lost 7th, but we weren't even trying, so it's like, wow.
Mine English not so great too.
Right.
Should we try and turn all of that into predictions? Yeah,
we can try.
Okay, right. I'm going to be very, very proud of anyone that gets a 5 out of 5 this week. I genuinely am, just because of how unknown it is.
Would you not be any week?
More so this week than most, I think.
This is a lottery this week, man. This is an absolute lottery.
Yeah. So if you want your opportunity of getting that 5 out of 5 and earning my hard-earned recognition for getting it right, you can head to backofthegrid.com where you'll find all the details of how to sign up and join in with this. But you'll get to listen to us 3 make a fool of ourselves doing these predictions right now and then know what not to pick, probably, more than likely. So let's start with fastest qualifier. Chris, where are you going to go for this one?
Charles Leclerc.
Interesting.
McClurk.
That
Stu. Oh, go on. Chris, did you have something to
I'm
justify your
banking
choice?
on that Ferrari tyre warm-up.
Yeah.
Chuck's got a good qualifying record in general. I mean, he's had some big qualifying performances this season.
I'm going to go Sainz, because Sainz was quick in Singapore.
He was my second choice.
Okay. And I'm going to go Norris. Just because I was going to go Sainz, but I want to be a bit different. So that's my backup choice.
Also, there is like merit to the Red Bull being nowhere argument after Singapore as well, isn't there? If we're
It could happen.
Singapore as like the closest to this, even though tyre temperatures are going to be a massive factor, then I think the tyre temperatures are the thing that's going to bring everyone back towards Red Bull if Red Bull don't get this right.
Yeah.
But if you pick previous races, this track is most similar to, it is the tracks that Red Bull have been weakest at this season. So there's there's logic there.
Yeah. Stu, how about you for a winner?
I'm going to go Norris for the win.
Ooh. Okay.
I'm taking the Red Bulls out of the equation completely, because I do have a feeling that this might be I say this every week, but this might be the one that they don't dominate. And I think Norris, I don't think the Ferrari is, even with these factors all considered, I don't think the Ferrari has just got the setup or the car to treat its tyres right, whatever the temperature. And I think the McLaren is probably going to be better at it. So, and I think it'll be really close in qualifying between the top 3, 4, 5 qualifiers anyway. So, that's where I'm going to go.
Yeah. I'm going Norris as well. I was going double Norris. I was setting that up after changing my mind on the qualifier. So
I was considering Norris as well, but now you've both said it, I'm not so sure.
Well, all we know is if it's a Charles Leclerc pole position, it's generally not a Charles Leclerc win. So we know you're not going there.
Yeah.
So are you going with the true to form Max win, or are you going with somebody else?
I think I am.
Okay.
Partially because whenever Leclerc's on pole, Verstappen wins, and also partially because
whenever
all
Leclerc's on pole, Leclerc doesn't win.
After all of the hype and build up for this, I think Verstappen winning is the most boring option, and I've got a feeling that's going to happen. So,
I mean, to be fair, we've had a couple of races like this season, haven't we, where teams have been very close to him and actually beaten them in qualifying, but then race trim comes around and they're just like, even if it's only 10, 15 seconds up the road, he's far enough up the road for it to be comfortable for the most part.
Well, usually they've got a couple of attempts on everyone in race trim, so I don't see that being any different.
Exactly. They've got enough there that they know that they can qualify in a much more race-preferred setup is the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I must rephrase that. They usually gain a couple of attempts in race pace over their qualifying, sort of over what you'd expect other teams to gain.
They set up for race, essentially, don't they? Like I was just saying there, like it's about, they can take the compromise of a race-heavy setup because they know that he's quick and the car's quick, and in combination, those first 2 rows is enough for him to comfortably win a race usually, because if they set it up right. Anyway, first DNF. I'll go first on this one. I mean, I feel like it could genuinely be anyone this week, but because it went the way it did in recent races, I'm going to go like a home soil kind of thing, and I'm going to say Logan Sargent.
It's probably the most likely one, I think, but I'm going to go Perez.
Okay, and Chris?
You've got to be looking.
Gets around the grid to the start line.
I'm going to say Magnussen.
Oh.
Partially because he's on a rough run, and partially because he drives for an American team, supposedly.
I mean, I went for Magnussen for 3 in a row last week, and it was pretty close.
It was very close.
So this would almost have made it 4 out of... Well, I mean, it'd be 4 out of 4 DNFs, wouldn't it? And almost 4 out of 4 first DNFs. So it's not a bad shout, to be fair. I'm going to throw you straight into the deep end on number of finishes, Chris. Where are you going with that?
Wow, that's tough. 16.
Stu?
14, please.
Oof.
I was going to go low, but not quite that low. So I'm going 15 in between the pair of you. So that's that one. And then,
That's good.
So when it comes to random driver, because we have more races than we do drivers, even with driver changes through the season, it's worked out that we've used everybody. So my understanding is Chris has put everybody from the grid back in the pot.
Everyone's back in the pot.
Could be anyone then, literally.
Week,
Could literally be
for
anyone.
a second time this season, it is Nico Hülkenberg.
Hülkenberg. Jeez. Is it Hülkenberg's car that's going back to the old spec?
It is.
11th. Done.
You think they're going to improve, do you, with the old car?
No, I just think he's going to be able to stay around long enough in the fight with the old car, not be one of the DNFs, and the likes of I don't know, Sargent if he finishes, and like
he's not being interfered with. Is what
the
you're
Alfa
saying.
Romeos, like people like that, they're going to finish behind him essentially.
I mean, this could easily become just a survival race where, like, if you make the finish line, you've got a good chance at some point.
Yeah,
So
I think so. I'm going to go Hülkenberg. I'm going to say 12th.
12th. See, yeah, that's
It's a tricky one. It is a tricky
it's
one.
not. That's not that high though, considering you've only got 14 finishes. It's
yeah,
I think he'll
similar
finish.
logic to mine of he'll finish, but it'll be towards the end of the finishes.
I can actually see Hülkenberg making it to Q3 again this week, and then in true Haas style, just fading
Going backwards. Yeah.
I'll go one lower and say 13th.
Okay.
Wow, that's very unified. Some very unified predictions there.
Yeah.
That's quite good. Shall I? Oh, we better play a track for. Oh no, we've got a whole nother bit to do before we move on to inbox. I'm just trying to rush us through. Come on, let's
Why? What's the other bit we've got to do before inbox?
You've got to tell people I can go to backthegrid.com where they can
I
sign
did
up
it
and take
before.
part.
If they didn't hear it first time, they're not getting it this time, are they? Backthegrid.com. Time for inbox.
Keep it saying now. No, stay out. Hey, man.
I will take the first one in this very casual episode of Back of the Grid.
It's Vegas, baby.
It's from Snook Darren, who I can only imagine plays a lot of snooker. So, can you guys talk about the Vegas track in a bit more detail? Because I keep looking at it and I really am not convinced that it's going to be a good racetrack. It is a bit bland, which worries me. I think it looks like a Moomin. That's my input.
It does look like a Moomin.
Yeah,
I don't know what a
Moomin or
is. Google
or-
Moomins.
little pet pig.
Do you want to give you a quick track guide, given that I have driven some laps around it?
Yeah,
Go
give
on.
us give us your most interesting part and your most boring.
So turn one, actually quite a cool corner because you're coming at it pretty fast. It's sort of third gear-ish. It's like a long radius corner. I'll be amazed if everybody on lap one gets through there without contact. Then couple of boring corners, pretty long back DRS straight, nasty 90-degree right. That's where you get to where the big giant sphere is, and there's a really long left-hander which turns into a left-right chicane. It's completely, it all looks the same. You have to pick your braking point before you can even see the chicane. It's horrible. I hate that
wow,
corner.
and you're turning as well. You're
Really, really difficult corner.
How similar is that corner to the Sochi long left-hander in terms of...
It's nowhere
apex
near
and
as
stuff?
long, and it's a tighter radius. And the corner comes up much quicker than you expect.
So nothing like them.
Yeah. Boring fiddly bit with that chicane. The sort of second half of Sector 3 is quite interesting. It's sort of a couple of flat sweepers, and you have to sort of come... You're almost starting your braking for the last corner before turn 12. Like as you first see it, it's quite a tricky braking point and a really important one, which then takes you on to the back straight where you can just switch your brain off for like 30 seconds. Actually, you joked earlier, Tom, about this track being like half the strip. I think I read that back straight is literally a third of the track is just driving down the strip flat out.
Wasn't far off then.
You know what? I've
then
got
you
time for that. Like, I
then you
think that's
desperately
right.
try and pick a breaking point at the end of it because it's just a bunch of casinos and bright lights and stuff. And then the couple of corners at the end of the massive straight are just terrible for overtaking. Considering they're the big corners at the end of the big straight, they're awful for overtaking.
Is that the weird clunky looking chicane?
Yeah, it's like a left, right, left that really
Yeah.
tightens up. It's pretty horrible. Although I suspect all the overtaking will have been done a long time before that, in the middle of the DRS straight, given the length of it.
Can I ask a question based on, I've not really planned this down in my head in terms of, I don't even know where the sphere is. So which way up or down the strip are they driving? I've not even worked that out yet.
It is, oh God.
That's a weird question for a podcast, Tom.
It is, but like, what I'm just trying to work out is, are they going from like the MGM airport side of the strip and up it, or coming down it from the old strip towards the MGM and the airport?
If the sphere is at the bottom of the strip, they'd be starting at the... I know the sphere isn't at the bottom of the strip. I know it's in a completely different part of Las Vegas, like up the road from the strip, but the end the strip's on, the end that the sphere would be on, I think would be the bottom of the strip, and they just drive up it, away from the sphere.
Yeah, that's right.
So they so they're driving like towards Bellagio and stuff, and then turning round the back of it. I'm guessing.
I guess so. I've never been to Vegas, so
Chris should know.
Yeah, it's from the...
It's just because of the
literally,
curve in it.
Frantically searching on Google Maps
It's
now.
the only reason I ask this question is because of the curve in it. You've got like turn 13, and I use air quotes.
Yeah.
Because it is not a turn.
I hate that they do that. Why do they do that?
And I'm just trying to work out where on the strip I remember there being like a bend like that. For context, in my own head of trying to picture like where it fits.
I
Because the
can't remember
sphere's too
exactly.
new for me. From like it's recent, isn't it? Like I've not been in post-COVID
Man,
world.
someone sent a picture of it. The thing just looks insane to me.
The
I'm
sphere is
excited to see what
insane.
they do with the sphere.
Yeah, I am too. I hopefully they've put some money into it and they've got something really special planned for it. I
Have
hope
you?
it's not just just a flat graphic or whatever. I really hope.
I doubt it
cool.
with the hype.
No, I
must
think
have
they're
made
going
it
to do
into
some
a
cool
helmet.
stuff with it. Yeah.
Have you seen the meme that someone, or whatever you want to call it, this one made of the Horner and Toto argument about maybe you should just fix your car then or whatever, being like beamed on the sphere. It looks hilarious. Like if you haven't seen it, I don't know how you're going to see it without trying to Google that, but it's hilarious.
I figured it out, Tom. It's going from the sort of Caesar's Palace end of the strip up towards the like Luxor Mandalay base end of it, if that makes sense. It's going north. They go north to south.
Okay, so they're coming down it, as I would say.
Yeah. I'm just describing a map now. This is a bad podcast.
No, that's fine.
I'm so glad we cleared that up. Shall we do the next question, please?
It was important information we were asked.
I've sort of just gathered a few Vegas-y related questions together in one here. Charlie Brigden asks if we're going to be watching live at 6 a.m. or catching up later. I'll be getting up for it.
I mean, generally I'm up at that time.
Yeah.
Is whether I'm up at that time to watch it like on the dot live or whether I'm watching on a 20-minute delay or something. We'll see.
Yes.
And then Sarah asks, how is it possible for a multi-million-dollar industry to not have the capacity to make sure the climate they're planning on racing in is actually a climate it's possible to race in? And Blaze 2010 asks, can we discuss the irony of the crown jewel of US races being run while most of the country's in bed? How is this supposed to increase US viewership, especially considering sunsets at 4:30 and I could easily run it at 8 p.m?
Yeah, so I had this exact conversation with the Discord earlier. We were just debating things whilst everyone was getting set up, and that I don't get how they're like, we need to promote more races in America for the American people, and then they put it on at a time that 99% of the US population is generally going to be asleep.
It's a weird
10
choice.
p.m.
Yeah, but you've got to think about East Coast. It's gone midnight for East Coast, especially qualifying. Qualifying's at midnight. Qualifying's at 4 a.m. for someone on the East Coast.
That's a good point. Yeah,
It's a really strange choice.
It's weird.
It almost smacks of the arrogance of like, oh, we're F1 in Vegas. People will watch it whatever time we put it on.
We can do what we want. Yeah.
No,
I mean,
I'm not sure that's the case.
The point of like when sunset is in that part of the world at this time of year is enough for me to say it's just a ridiculous oversight. Probably would have helped with track temperatures as well, to be honest, because not long after sunset and so on, there's still going to be more residual heat in the surface to at least make things easier for longer.
I wonder if they were worried about track evolution. I wonder if they were worried about it cooling down so much that it'd be difficult for them to find a setup.
So it's at least consistent.
Maybe they're looking for consistency, but
I think, Stu, you're giving them too much credit there.
Yeah.
You're giving them too much credit there. And the reason I say that is because they didn't even know what the track temperature was going to be when they decided this. So far too much credit given.
I've just made their excuse for them, and if any of them are listening, if you make that excuse, I'm going to know. We're all going to know exactly where you got it from.
Exactly.
Next one?
The fact they seem to have been surprised by the fact that it's going to be cold.
Yeah, who'd have thought it'd be cold in the night time in the northern hemisphere in November?
Weird, right?
Who knew?
Yeah. Shall I read the next one? Have we finished with those ones? Eugene Risto says, Alonso has finished on the podium in Brazil on 3 separate decades. Anyone achieve this feat across the same length of time at the same track? I don't think anyone's raced for 3 decades, have they, other than Alonso? I mean, maybe just about, I guess.
Yeah, there's a difference between raced for 3 decades and raced in 3 decades.
Yeah, true. Very true.
I know of 2 drivers who have.
Go.
One current, one recent. The current one is Lewis Hamilton. Because he's raced in the noughts, the 10s and the 20s. And I think he's done it at multiple tracks, certainly Silverstone, but I'm sure there's a lot more given his podium record. And the other one is Vettel, because he got that 3rd place in Turkey in 2020. And he also got a podium in Turkey in like 2009 and then at some point in the 10s. So he just creeps into the 2 decades either side of the 2010s. I'm sure there's probably more going back through history, but that's the first 2 I thought of and looked up.
I can't think of any more, so I think maybe we go on to the next question.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone happy with that?
Yeah, go for it.
Wesley says, hey man, it's been made pretty clear at this point, most, if not all of the teams at the bottom half of the standings are looking towards next year's car design. That said, there is some good competition for points down there. What team, if any of them, might pull a little something extra out to try and gain a place?
So I read something interesting about Valtteri today. Since Singapore, which is, I would say, about when their upturn in form started, apparently they've been using Red Bull rear suspension.
Oh.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Well, now we know.
And they also have a new floor coming in Abu Dhabi, which basically is going to be next year's floor. They're going to start testing at Abu Dhabi. So yeah, it seems like of the 4 teams towards the bottom, they're definitely the ones that have really... And I guess that kind of fits into their philosophy change we spoke about for next season, because they're basically going to be taking as many bits from Red Bull as they possibly can next season. Yeah. Which I think is going to upset a lot of teams.
Yeah, I think the real thing that it shows you is that, you know, it is all about this formula. The aero, the underfloor aero is only half of the equation. It's all about suspension and giving the car a really, really stable platform to be able to make that aero work. If you can keep the front of the car from diving and the rear of the car from lifting under braking, you have got a lovely, lovely, stable platform to keep your car roughly the right ride height throughout the range of forces applied to the car, and therefore it will generate consistent downforce. Therefore, the driver will be able to have a lot of faith in it going in and out of corners, and they'll be able to use it and go fast. And I think that's the difference between the Red Bull and most of the cars. I've been saying it's been suspension for a long, long time, and as time goes on, it just proves itself again and again and again for me.
I do think, to get way ahead of where we are at this point in time, I think one of the big stories of next year is going to be a lot of teams complaining about the Red Bull AlphaTauri relationship, because I can see them making a pretty big jump up the grid if they're going to be taking lots of parts from the Red Bull team.
Yeah, obviously,
I mean,
naturally, if they don't, there's some serious problems.
I think.
I mean, we saw what happened with the pink Mercedes. Like that was just them buying a few bits and copying the rest, and that was bad enough. So if they're literally just having off the shelf bits,
I think if it's going to be allowed, I think you have to have something in place that basically anybody could request to buy that component at that price.
That's a good idea.
Because then at least if they are going to sell them to AlphaTauri for a fixed price, anyone can go buy that. The same way that the engines are like that. Like, you have to provide a consumer unit for non-manufacturer teams, and you have to sell it to the same price for everyone. If you're selling a component to another team on the grid, regardless of your relationship with them, I think that if we're getting to that point, then maybe that's how that should be.
Allow me to begin this counter-argument by saying that I absolutely agree with you, but I fundamentally disagree with the concept of customer cars in Formula 1.
100%. I'm with you on that. I think, like I say, my point was mainly, if we're going to be in a position where buying certain parts is allowed from another team or whatever it might be, there needs to be some kind of standardization and rules around the fact that anybody can buy that part, and they can't just go, no, you can't have it because you run a Mercedes engine. Or you can have it, but you've got to pay more than that team. I think it needs to be the same as the engine rules and the regulations that are in place to do with selling those, if it's going to be a thing. But I also fundamentally agree that ideally I don't want it happening full stop. Like, part of being an F1 team is to develop your car.
You should be designing your own car and running your own car. You shouldn't be buying parts from the other teams. That's customer cars. That's what, and we know from past experience that if you've watched Formula 1 for long enough, back in the days when there were customer cars, those customer cars never could hold a candle to the manufacturer cars.
Because they never got
going to happen. They never got the development. They never got the best bits. So they would always be fundamentally a step behind those cars because they would never have the latest components, and that's just the way it goes. So, and that is why we don't have customer cars in Formula 1. And this, to me, and it felt like it back when the pink Mercedes was around. It felt wrong then, and it feels wrong now with AlphaTauri doing the same thing with Red Bull. I think it's out of order.
I also find it just such a peak F1 thing for what they're doing is completely within the rules, and all of the teams signed up to those rules, and no one even thinks about it. And the second a team gets an advantage, everyone's like, hang on, you can't do that. How dare you?
I love the dramatic zoom into Chris's face there.
How dare you utilise the rules that we all signed up for to gain an advantage? That's not F1. It's very sporting of you.
Doesn't sound like F1 at all. Well, I think that's a good place to leave it, guys. So thank you all for joining us on the Discord and on YouTube and on everywhere else, wherever you might be listening. We will be back on Monday on Tuesday with we will be back next time after the Grand Prix to review the Las Vegas. It's actually the USA Grand Prix, but
is it?
Yeah, I think it's in the calendar.
It's like US brackets.
It's the USA
Las
Grand
Vegas
Prix
or something
in Las Vegas.
Fair.
But it's the Las Vegas Grand Prix. That's what we're all going to call it, isn't it? So we'll be back to review it next week. And hopefully you'll join us. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you then. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.